Hello, everybody. First item on the agenda is to call the meeting to order at 6:32 or so, 6:32. Next on the agenda is to approve the minutes from the regular meeting held on April 23rd, 2019.
Make a motion to approve the minutes of April 23rd, 2019.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Next item is appointments. We have 3 appointments to make tonight. The first is to the Design Advisory Board. Mike Cole sat on that board for a number of years, actually since its inception. 2 years ago, he decided to step down from that in order to allow other folks to come and fill that and participate. No one did. He called up a couple of weeks ago and asked if he could get back on it. So I recommend that we appoint Mike to the Design Advisory Board. And why don't we go through these one at a time, just so I can do that. Economic Development Commission, Sage Novak, operates the Anchor and Compass and the Anchor and Rose, Compass and Rose. The Economic Development asked her if she would like to serve on their board. She has volunteered to do so, so I'd like to recommend her. Ed Sedgwick, for the WPCA, is relatively new to town, about a year. He's been at the last couple of WPCA meetings, and he's expressed an interest in getting on that, and there's a couple more vacancies on that. So I'm recommending all 3 of these folks be appointed to the terms to expire as listed here. So if we can get a motion for each one.
Make a motion that we approve Mike Cole for the Design Advisory Board, Sage Novak for Economic Development Commission, and Edward Sedgwick for the WPCA.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Next item on the agenda is Kevin Wakely, discussion of the boarding facility income and expense survey for calendar year 2018. That was the message I got, although I think Kevin might have a little more to speak about. So come to the table or to the mic or however you want to approach this.
Yeah,
feel free.
So we're actually going to have Joe Nichols is going to speak for us, kind of as a group.
Okay.
In regard to the income statement. So, Joe Nichols, part of the group.
I talk really loud.
Okay.
I'm not sure if the camera will be able to hear you if you don't use that a little bit.
You're
So,
okay?
you okay?
Do you know that the mic is not coming from the house?
They're not. Well, I'm not speaking close enough, I guess. Well, come on to the table if you want, John.
Want me to sit here?
Sure.
Sure. Thank you. Do you want me to talk into the mic?
That's more for everybody else. For us.
Hello? We good? You can hear me now? Okay. First of all, thank you for having us this evening. For the record, my name is Joan Nichols. I'm the Director of Member Relations, Community Outreach with Connecticut Farm Bureau Association. We're not a state agency. We are a private nonprofit. We represent about 3,000 to 4,000 farm families in the state of Connecticut, and we're proud to say we're celebrating 100 years in the state of Connecticut this November. So I've been asked by Kevin and some of the farmers in the town of Deep River to just talk to you a little bit about what it means to support agriculture in your local community. And sort of some of this has come to a head primarily around the implementation and administration of Public Act 490, which I did bring our 2015 guides with me. Also, there was a letter that was sent from the assessor's office to the farmers in regards to an income and expense report statement. And at Connecticut Farm Bureau, because we also have an advocacy role at the state capitol, we feel like we have to stay on top of all of the laws and regulations that pertain to Connecticut agriculture. And when this letter was brought to our attention, I had never seen it used in farming before, but I'm not an assessor. and I'm not an attorney either. So what I did is I looked at the statute, and it appears that the statute is utilized for income-producing rental properties. And I brought a copy of the statute here. It's 12-63C. The other thing I did is we've maintained a very good rapport with the assessors across the state because we work a lot with them on legislation, Public Act 490, and we always want to make sure that we're on the same page with assessors because we all want to make sure that we all understand the laws and where our authority and jurisdiction lies. So I reached out to 3 assessors and asked them, have you ever used this form or used this statute for agriculture? And the 3 assessors I reached out to was the Lebanon assessor, because Lebanon has the largest amount of agriculture in the state of Connecticut and the most amount of permanently protected land. So I assume that Emma would know implicitly what laws and forms are required to be filled out by farmers. I also reached out to Chandler Rose in Willimantic, who used to be the assessor in Chaplin and Weathersfield and is now the assessor in Wyndham, and I thought that he had a rural perspective as well as an urban perspective. And then I also reached out to another assessor, Gail, who was the assessor in East Hampton, or Portland is now the assessor in East Hampton, and all of them came back to me and basically said, we've never used this form or this law for farms, it's meant for rental properties. So I'm not a lawyer, but what I may suggest is that you look at this and see whether it is actually applicable to farms. Because I have 3 assessors that said they've never used it for farms in pretty active rural farming communities. The other thing that I thought was interesting is there's reference in the letter that says that due to a recent change in the law, we cannot be as flexible as we used to in the past. And I looked at the citations, and the last change in the law was a public act that went through in 2010. So again, you may want to look into asking what the recent change in the law was that may have changed the effectiveness of this legislation, and what did that mean? And then also, if the law was changed in 2010, but there's a reference to a more recent change, then what was the methodology that was used prior to 2010? Because apparently the existing farms in town have never seen this up until this year.
I can't speak for...
So I don't know. These are just questions that you as first selectmen...
490 changed last year, as far as I understand.
The
ability to... the changing from using zoning acreage to actual with the land that is under the building. That law changed just in the last year or so, as far as...
Right, and actually, with that, well, I don't know if that's what she's referring to. I don't either. I will tell you, and I did want to bring that statute up, the one that you're referring to. So anyhow, so that's some discussion that maybe the Board of Selectmen wants to have and look into this a little bit further, and then certainly reach out to the farming community and get their reaction, especially from the farms that have been here for a number of years and have never seen this up until recently. So the other thing that the state of Connecticut has gone above and beyond to support agriculture in the state. And when we start to talk about 490, which I'm kind of glad you brought that up, because maybe that is what your assessor is referring to. And there was a public act that was passed in, it's Public Act 18176, which was an amendment to the definition of the classification of farmland, which is part of the PA 490 statutes. And this was signed by Governor Malloy in 2018. And what the amendment says is that the assessor shall not deny the application of an owner of land for classification of such land as farmland if such land meets the criteria for classification as farmland pursuant to this subsection. The assessor shall not deny the application for any portion of such land on account of any minimum acreage requirement for residential parcels or agricultural use established under municipal zoning regulations. This statute was actually introduced by Representative Dubitsky and signed into law by Governor Malloy, and I have copies of the Public Act. So actually, what this was meant to do was actually clarify in the existing statutes that any land that meets the criteria for farmland, and we look at whether the activity on that land is actually agriculture and farming under Connecticut General Statute 1-1Q. So we look at that is the activity on any 1 acre agriculture. And that is all encompassing because you're looking at the definition, which includes swamp, scrub, ledge, woodland. And then when we start to look at the land under and around the farm buildings, it's sort of intuitive in the nature of farming that you're going to have the land, and then you're going to have the infrastructure that the farm needs to support the agricultural operation, whether it's the tobacco sheds on tobacco ground, whether it's greenhouses, whether it's a beef barn, whether it's hay storage facility, whether it's a housing for livestock, be it beef, cattle, horses, etc. So when you look at the definition of farming and agriculture, it also does include farm buildings in the definition of farming and agriculture. So there's been a lot done on the state level to support that, and so, you know, we look at whether the municipalities are in alignment with what, you know, the intent of the General Assembly is.
I think the line, I don't, again, I'm just speaking from a little bit of reading that I've done in the last week and a conversation with the town attorney, and I think that the only question with that is that it says very clearly in the statute that it needs to preserve the land if built from development, if it is not in the category that of classification available, right? And the classifications does not include under a barn. It's all of those other things that you have to do, arable land and all those.
Right.
But a barn is not part of that classification or underneath that barn. And I think anyway that's really the crux of this particular question, and the interpretation of that regulation or statute.
Sure.
Is where that difference of opinion comes.
Sure, and I think that
legislation maybe needs to do a little bit more cleaning up.
right. I think we need to look at that, but I also have to look, when you look at the declaration of policy, I think when you're looking at any agriculture or farming, you have to look at it, take a holistic approach to it. And the way I would look at this is if I'm a farmer and I need a hay storage facility, or I have the type of livestock that needs housing, maybe beef cattle doesn't need housing, horses, dairy cattle need housing. So if you have a declaration of policy within your current use assessment law that says that this is an all-encompassing to preserve the farmland and all of the things that you talk about, it would seem to me it'd be a little counterintuitive to give a current use assessment law for the land that's being actually farmed and then put all of the other land that's under the farm buildings at such a high level that it doesn't meet the intent of the law to make the land affordable. Because ultimately, you're going to tell the farmer, well, go ahead and farm the land, but whatever you do, don't put any buildings on it because your taxes are going to go up through the roof. And what people don't understand is that farmers are already they pay taxes on the buildings, they pay taxes on the registered motor vehicle, on their building lots, on their houses, and they pay taxes on that land. But on the land, and in our opinion, the land under and around the buildings is part of the farm unit. And we could talk, we could all talk about interpretation, but if you start to tax the land under and around the farm buildings at an exorbitantly higher rate than the land that's being farmed, of which the buildings are supporting that infrastructure, are you looking and meeting the declaration of policy? It's sort of, I mean, otherwise you'd be a farmer and you wouldn't put any buildings up. And I don't think that that's what the General Assembly was expecting, is that we'll give you the farmland classification, but as soon as you put a building on it, all bets are off.
Well, I think
So, yeah, well, I think it's
think
good
that's
to have that
fair.
conversation.
Different buildings have different values and all that kind of.
Yeah, I mean, the value of the buildings is something else. The farmers are going to pay taxes on the buildings, and unless you pass the farm building exemption, which is something you may want to consider in the future, many other towns have already passed it. But I think in closing, unless you have more questions for me, farming touches everything. It touches zoning, it touches tax assessment, it taxes everything. And your plan of conservation speaks to sustainability and enhancement of agriculture and the growth. And you can't talk about sustainability and enhancement of agriculture and do it through planning and zoning and all of the other initiatives that the farms need, but then you have one component of it, be it the tax assessor or be it the planning and zoning commission or the building department, that isn't in alignment with those plans, those desires in your plan of conservation development, because ultimately the farms will go someplace else. There are 3 towns right now in the state of Connecticut that offer all of the abatement programs for farming: Woodstock, Mansfield, and Wallingford. Lebanon's a very ag-friendly community. There are other places that the farms can invest in. They don't have to invest in Deep River. And so I think if you want to meet the goals of your plan of conservation and development, and you want the farms to stay, you want the farms to grow, there needs to be a uniform application of the laws that'll help that happen.
Well, I think we ought to have a continuing conversation, one that includes the assessor, one that includes the Farm Bureau. I hope we can make it down.
I like Deep River, I hear.
And when we include
Yes.
some of the farmers.
Sure.
Cost of community services for them.
Sure. Are you all familiar with cost of community services studies? Okay. So let me give you this.
I have a little heads up, because I was at the thing.
Yes. Okay, so let me give you this. I'm going to give you 3 publications that I think you will find valuable. One of them, the University of Connecticut in 2017 updated the economic impact to Connecticut agriculture. It's a $4 billion industry in the state of Connecticut. Connecticut Conference of Municipalities did their planning for Ag Guide in 2016 revision, and this has a lot of great information in it on helping to support and enhance local agriculture. And Public Act 490, this is our 2015 guide. We did it through a farm viability grant with the Department of Agriculture. I actually did a 490 program here in Deep River a few years ago, and I'm happy to come back and do that again. So what a cost of community services studies do, and if you look at the book, there is a section on it. There's actually a number of communities within the state of Connecticut that have done their own community services study. The most recent, the town of Colchester, and I think that's a good place to look because Colchester is a great town, but it may be a little bit like Deep River. It's got its center, it's got its borough, and then it has its sort of suburban areas, and then it has its rural communities on the outskirts of Colchester. And what the cost of community services studies looks at is basically whatever income a municipality may take in from revenue, tax revenue on that particular land use, and basically they put it into 3 buckets: residential, open space, farmland, working lands, which is basically your land in 490, your forest land, your farmland, your open space, your working land, and then commercial industrial. And they put it into 3 buckets. So whatever revenue that your municipality is taking in from residential taxes, from your working land taxes, your farmland, your forest land, your open space, and then whatever commercial industrial space you have, on average, what does your municipality spend to support that land base? And when you look at the cost of community services studies, whether they're in Connecticut or nationally across the United States, and actually American Farmland Trust has done these across the United States, and I can send you a link to those summaries. But basically what it says is for every dollar your municipality takes in residential development, on average, your town spends over $1.10 to support that land base. When you look at every dollar that you take in from your working land, your farmland, your forest land, your open space, on average, your town is only spending between 30 and 40 cents to support that land base, and then commercial and industrial is even a little bit low. Every dollar you take in from them, on average, you're only spending 26. So, you know, intuitively, you'd look at that and go, well, you know, we can try to keep the farms here and look at the cost of community services, because while we're not getting a lot of money or as much money in taxes from that, we're also spending a lot less. In fact, we're in the plus side of that. If the farm or the farmland goes up for development and goes into residential development, you're on the flip side. That land is going to cost the town more money than they're going to take in revenue. So again, there's lots of studies across the United States and in Connecticut, along with a lot of work that UConn and the General Assembly and working with Farm Bureau and Working Lands Alliance and other groups have done to support the farming community, and to see that not only, so I would love to see the next time that UConn comes up, that our industry has gone from 4 billion, you know, to 5 billion. And instead of 21,000 jobs, we now have 25, 30,000. But everything that the farms need, just like any other business or any other economy, needs support on the state level, but it has to, in Connecticut, has to have equal amount of support on the local level. And it's got to come into the zoning and the tax incentives and the application of laws that were put in place over 50 years ago to support the farms. So there's a lot of great reading material for you.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
So it looks as if you're getting more taxes from the residential development, but in the long run, it costs you more. So
Right.
even though you're taking more in, you have to put more out,
Correct. And why is that?
because the schools probably.
Right. So what I like to say is we don't send cows, horses, and trees to school.
My horse one, I offered it.
Well, maybe, I don't know. Maybe you've got a lot of really smart
school.
horses in Deep River. But yes, it's the school budgets. And it really, you build a subdivision, now the town is incurring additional infrastructure, you know, whether there's additional roads they have to take over, you know, there's more build out, so there's more demand on the town services.
Joe, could you explain open space policy?
The open space for the purposes of 490, the open space classification is its own statutory classification. That's considered what we call one of your municipal options. So unlike farmland and forest land, which if the applicant and the use of the land meets the criteria, it should be granted as farmland or forest land, open space is a municipal option. There are about 30-something towns in Connecticut that offer that. It's a municipal option. The town would have to build that into their plan of conservation and development, and then you would look at the parcels that have development pressures on them. For instance, the parcels that are under 25 acres that don't meet the statutory classification for forest land, where you have to have 25 acres. So maybe you have a lot of 18, 20-acre forested parcels, and people are paying high taxes on that, and they are developable parcels, but they don't meet that classification. Or somebody has a beautiful piece of property, it's developable, but they're not farmers, and they don't want to be farmers, but it's providing wildlife habitat, open space. The town would look at those parcels, decide they want to do the open space classification. You would come up with a well-worded ordinance. Generally, parcels that are in an approved subdivision would not qualify. But you have to look at the land you have in Deep River that is, you know, not meeting the forest land classification or is not being farmed, but certainly has development pressure, and would the town be willing to give those landowners some sort of reduced tax benefit? Unlike farmland and forest land, the town would set the value and set the criteria. It does not come from the state of Connecticut. What the state law does is it gives you the framework to develop the open space classification, but not the details on it.
They do the same thing with the conveyance tax for open space?
The conveyance tax would apply to any land in the PA 490 open space. The only difference is that if, for instance, Deep River adopted the open space classification, unlike farmland and forest land, where the conveyance tax and the penalty goes back to when somebody first took ownership of the property, the open space conveyance tax would start at time of classification, regardless of how long the applicant had owned the property. But that's all explained in here. So that's a tool to, again, protect some of your open land, but again, the town has to, you know, think about the impact to that and whether they'd be willing to do it.
This all sounds very complicated. Do you talk to assessors in different towns about implementing this sort of thing and how it, I mean, do you communicate with assessors about how to do this stuff?
So Public Act 490 was passed in 1963. It's not a new law. It's been around since 1963. What we do, and I will tell you that the assessors every single year attend a week-long school to just learn about all of the new laws that they need to know about. We at Connecticut Farm Bureau have been doing guidance and educational programs on 490 for over 35 years. The last 10 years, we have been fortunate to receive funding from the Connecticut Department of Agriculture, and we've produced both our 2010 guide and our 2015 guide. And as part of that, we've always built into the grants education, programming and education. I have attended the assessor's school at UConn, both with the DEP, Division of Forestry, and the Department of Agriculture. I think I've gone to, done a presentation for the Middlesex County assessors at least twice in Middletown. And I've done a presentation here in Deep River. So I'm happy to do it, but it's...
Our assessor has been at that meeting?
Yes. Yes, well, and so
I can't...
She's not telling me the truth then. 'Cause she's told me that she's attended a number of your different conversations and your workshops.
I can't say. You'd have to check with her.
I read the article and I did, so.
Yep. But anyhow, yes, and I've had over 1,000 people go through my 490 programs, because when we do them, they're free, we don't charge. I will go anywhere in the state, and the only thing I ask is that anytime I go up do a program, I always ask that it's opened up to the general community, because I'm an army of one, and I don't want to do this 169 times, but I'm willing to come to Deep River and open it up to, you know, Middlesex County or whatever. I've done them for the boards of assessment appeals. I've done them for the assessors in Fairfield County and Litchfield County. And I've actually asked the Connecticut Association of Assessing Officers to put 490 on the agenda for the assessment school for this coming year on their agenda. So it's not complicated. It really isn't. And when we wrote the book, we actually took the state statutes and made them as easy to understand as possible. And I have to tell you, when the General Assembly wrote these laws in 1963, you have to understand that a vast majority of the General Assembly in the 1960s were farmers. 1950s and 60s, better than half the General Assembly were either farmers or had come from an agricultural background. So they're not going to write a law that people don't understand, because farmers generally don't, they're not that complicated. They're very, you know, like, this is the way it is.
What are you saying?
Let's...
Spit it out.
So, I mean, you know, if you read the statute, it's pretty easy to understand. It's the interpretation that can get a little complicated. But there's also over 50 years of case law in 490.
Of course.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you.
First of all, thank you guys for having us here. We appreciate it. And, you know, as you may have known, I talked to you a little bit, Angus, about it. we had kind of an informal gathering of the farmers kind of in the community. And, one, we want to try to reestablish the line of communication with you guys directly, because I think there are some concerns. And I definitely think, as Joan said, there's definitely a discrepancy between some of the state statutes and interpretations of it. So, we're really just asking that you dig a little deeper into some of this stuff. And just so everybody in the room knows what we gave you in that package, the first one is that plan of conservation and development. And there's two kind of, I don't need to bore everybody, and I know you guys have a lot of other stuff to go on, but to deal with tonight. But I think one interesting, I'll read you two quick paragraphs. It says farm preservation, to maintain, sustain, and enhance agriculture so that it will remain a fundamental part of Deep River's landscape and economy, provide flexibility to assist in the evolution of agricultural industry by developing agritourism and activities regulations. On the second page, and this isn't the whole POCD, I didn't want to print all that off, I know you guys have it. But this one was interesting too. It says, encourage the adoption of a right to farm ordinance to reduce the loss of agricultural resources and encourage the development of a property tax reduction policy for agricultural properties and buildings as provided for in the state statutes. Encourage the sales and purchase of locally grown products by developing agritourism regulations. Sorry, I'm hard time. And it goes on. But, again, my understanding of the POCD is it's based off a survey done throughout the town. This last one was done in 2015. Obviously, we're new to the area. I know these guys are new too. And overall, we love the town. And we feel really welcome here. And planning and zoning and building and everybody, you guys have been great. And we want to keep it positive. I think that's really important. But we're concerned. And I think the one thing I would ask you tonight is the letter from the assessor is supposedly due June 1st with a penalty being assessed if it's not in by then. And I would ask if you guys would put an extension on that until we have a little better understanding of what it is.
I don't think that we have the ability to do that. I think this is all governed by statute. The Board of Selectmen does not determine when things are due, when they're not due. That's all governed by statute as far as I know. If there's something that we can do, we certainly will. But I don't believe, I actually don't think that Robin's doing anything that is not her understanding of the statute.
Can we get disagree or something? Because I know other farms and stuff in the area that have been here for a long time, but this is the first time.
This is new. What's explained to me, believe me, I'm trying to be the first I can't be assessor too. What she explained to me is this is a relatively new development that all towns are required to do. Okay. So all of the farmers in town should be seeing this.
Well, only four farms in town received them. Well, again, this is why we're kind of bringing it to light.
Let's have a conversation about it with Robin so she can answer those. I can't answer them.
So obviously we have a little bit of a legal issue right now with the town in some of the tax stuff. And again, I know other people in the room are feeling a little bit concerned about dealing directly with her.
Well, we'll do it together. I'll be in the room. We'll all sit together.
I guess
I'd like to have Joan here. We can do all this stuff.
I think my point of this whole thing is I think this is a process to get to understand, because I think agriculture and horse farms in this town is a building. Obviously, these guys have blazed the way for us, and there's been a lot of interest. There's been a lot of interest, and I think we're collectively doing a great thing for the community here.
I don't think anybody questions that.
And we're all, I hate to say it, but I've heard people say, and again, it's hearsay, that they're afraid of retaliation from it. And I'm just telling you guys whether you want to hear it or not, that's kind of what the consensus is.
No, we certainly want to hear everything that anybody has to say. That's why we're here. That's why we're here to listen to this kind of thing.
And it's
But
greatly appreciated.
I don't think that there's any reason to be afraid of retaliation. Number one, it's not legal, and number two, I just don't think that would happen.
Okay.
With what I know of Rob.
So, not to beat a dead horse, so here's the rest of the package, just so everybody knows what we gave you. We did give these guys a copy of the form, which obviously you have access to. The state statute that Joan had kind of talked about. And then on the back of the package, we gave you two more. One is a municipal option to exempt horses and ponies from property taxation, and a case letter from the town of Essex. And again, not to discuss tonight, but I'd like you guys to look at it because I think there are multiple kind of issues that have come to a head. And I think it's important that everybody has a really a collective understanding of what's happening with that.
Well,
I'm sorry.
No, I was just going to respond, not to when Larry and I moved in, Robert and I began the conversation of finding and did some research with Stone. I think North Stonington just came up with that horse option, that public municipal option for exempting horses under $1,000 or something like that. So we have started doing some research for the last year about that, and there's a process that we have to go through, and if you want to participate in that, that would be terrific too.
Yeah, I think that's great, and I think, like I said, our intent is to continue to, and listen, we're not going to come in with pitchforks. The idea is, we want to try to work collectively and in a positive manner. But like I said, we also want to feel good about, at the end of the day, we owe what we owe. But if there's state statutes in place and the majority of the state is implementing them, then why aren't we? So that's my 2 cents. But thank you for having us.
And I'm all for open dialogue with everyone. I'm not up on any of this stuff. I'll be the first one to admit it. And this is a lot of information. I'll take it home and read it. And I'm all for having a meeting with a few of the farmers and the lake back there and Robin, to see if we can find something that's good for everybody. Good for the farmers, good for the town. And if the statute says it, the statute says it. Whatever way it goes.
Could we possibly, before the first, look into an
As soon as I can, I'll talk with Robin and see about
Well,
that day.
here's my concern. We're all sitting down in the same room right now, and I know without a timeline, and I know how busy you guys are too. And there's plenty of other orders of business that have to be addressed other than this, but can we talk to legal counsel, talk to Robin, can we get some type of an answer so we have time to prepare it if we really have to? Because, and I can speak hopefully I can speak for most of you, we're all very busy too. And the amount of paperwork that's kind of gone into some of this now it seems a bit excessive.
I will speak with counsel and find out.
So,
and I'll call you and you can send it out to me. So, or give me a contact list for everybody in the association or the group. Just give me that information. I'll let you know the results of that.
And when could we expect that? So we're not.
I would hope by the end of the week.
Because that's 2 weeks ago. That's 2 weeks from now.
Yes. Well, I'll call tomorrow. I don't know what response I'll get or anything like that, but I'll make the call.
So
I'll call you as
sometime.
soon as I know, which hopefully will be by the end of the week. I'll call you if I don't have an answer on Friday.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
We'll get to these things.
I'm getting
Can I just, the letter that Kevin references in here, it says if you seek an extension beyond June 1st, you have to put it in writing by May 1st.
The problem with that, Jim, was that by the time we really understood what it was in the statute,
I don't know when it went out.
exactly. I think everybody
It did
kind
say
of
that. I'm just throwing that out there, that it did say that extensions were supposed to be submitted by May 1st.
understood, and I do get that. That's a valid point, but I think, like I said, when we all started really looking into what it was.
Yeah, I'm just saying. Yeah.
Yes, sir, I understand.
Who put the May 1st
It's in the letter from the assessor to the farmers.
So maybe she would be able to change.
Well, that's what we have.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
But
Can we answer your question?
the crux of it is, you didn't approve the levying of this new tax or this
I don't-
phasing in this tax.
I can't
According to
say-
state statute, the legislative body of the town shall approve the decision to provide for such phasing and the method by which it is accomplished in its term.
Okay, well, we'll look
And I
into
don't
that
think
too.
you
Can I
guys
have a
were
copy
ever
of
brought
that?
up with that situation to get it approved before it came out to only 4 people.
Well,
And
can I get a copy of that from you so I
it's,
can?
I can give you the section number, sure.
Great.
Section 1262C, municipal option to phase in assessment
Hang on.
or increases.
Section
1262C.
1262C.
Oh, it's right here.
Well,
Okay.
it's 63.
Okay.
62.
Yep, okay. Anything else I see on the handbook?
Yeah, when you said legal counsel, who is the legal counsel to you now?
I'll speak with the town council, Jane Marsh. She's been our town attorney for many, many years. And I'll also speak with the assessor's attorney. I think it's Londrigan down in New London.
I just have a question because I do have a history with this as well. And when I was going through this, Jane Marsh actually appeared as legal representation on my property when I was going through this issue a few years ago.
Yeah?
The issue I have with that is I'm a taxpayer and also involved with the Farm Bureau, and Jane Marsh is legal representation for both parties.
I can't speak to that. I don't know. I know she's been the town council for a long time. She has been.
She's also an attorney for the Farm Bureau, and being someone that's involved.
Well, I would think that would give her a good opportunity to know quite a bit about what she's
I
talking
still say that as a taxpayer, that's a huge conflict of interest.
about.
That's
I'm paying
My
for it
understanding-
myself, and so are other people here.
Well, I will look into that as well. That was a
Don't we
couple
have
years
land
ago, right,
use
Ben?
Well,
attorney?
she's still being mentioned as the legal counsel for these things that are going on for these other people. This was my own experience, and I know these other people are taxpayers, and they're experiencing a problem that's unfair as a taxpayer, to be paying on both ends of something.
Don't we have a land use attorney?
Yes, we do.
Maybe that would be.
We don't. The Planning and Zoning Commission does. Go ahead.
I'm Karen Baldwin. We've been here for about 15 years. We do love this town. It's been a great town. We don't plan on going anywhere. This is very concerning to me, this form, to get this out of the blue this year. But the other thing, I'm going to skip over that real quick, only because we've also dealt with the tax on the horses, which I know is kind of, not our big subject tonight. But we've dealt with this for years, and we just were like, we explain to our clients every year, we know no other town does this, we understand what Deep River does, so we have to do it, and we go through this every year. And we've talked to Robin directly, and she told us personally, she doesn't even like collecting it, and has told us on several occasions to get some signatures, to get people interested, and bring it to the town, because she said the town would be happy to get rid of that horse.
It's not a state requirement that
Well,
happens. The state has released the assessors from charging that.
I was
fee.
mentioning that only if the town votes to do that. We have to create a local option, I think it's called, and Joan can probably speak to it better than I can. But that's, as far as I know, that's what I was telling Kevin, that we've been looking into that, we've been researching it. If you all as a group
What
come
would
back
be our
with,
next step to help facilitate?
I would suggest do some research, come up with the language, and present us with something that we could take to council and ensure that it's legal. And then we could bring it to town vote. It's not, I don't think it's that big of an issue for us to do. I think the town would probably support something like that.
I did have a conversation with Robin about it, and I think I live in Killingworth, my horses are boarded in Deep River, so I retired to pay taxes on my horses. And I think the general gist of it is that, given that there is an exemption up to $1,000 per horse, unless the town is willing to hire somebody to come out and assess horses, which would be a little out of control.
Yep.
The amount of paperwork that it's costing your town between mailing it out, tracking it, stamping it, getting it back in, and for the people that are gonna say that my horse is worth X amount of dollars, the little bit of money that you're getting back, you're actually losing money trying to keep track of all of this, because in truth, the value of the animal, you know, there are gonna be some that are out there, but I mean, the value of the animal, most of these animals in town are people's pets. It's like me asking what the value of your dog is. I mean, you might think your dog is worth $100,000 because that's what you would pay because you love it, but it doesn't mean that is exactly, you know, if you got it in a pound, you pay $50. So that's, I think, the conversation that I was having with Robin about it was that, you know, do you really make money on doing this? Or is it just a hassle? And what I gathered was it's just a hassle.
Well, that's been my understanding as well, which is why I'm perfectly happy with
Sure.
something like this.
Cromwell just dropped it because.
And I
Yeah, I think
would
North Stony did
another
this recently
town,
too, so.
I mean, you're asking us to do some research, so would the research be that we get some information from surrounding towns as to how what they
Find
do?
towns that have done it,
their
we can
language
copy their
is?
language,
Okay, so-
or get close to their language,
Okay.
you know, it's fine.
Joe Nichols again, just point of information. There are a number of towns in Middlesex County that have already done it. Durham is another town. Kevin did give you what Essex did, so you don't really have to reinvent the wheel. And it's also, if you read the statute, you don't necessarily have to go to a town meeting. You can do it through a vote at the board of
Oh,
selectmen.
there you go, great.
And I believe that's the way Essex read, that they had
Even easier.
three affirmative votes
Correct.
from the board of selectmen. So if you just look at what Essex did, you'll see that.
So all the board of selectmen are here tonight, right? Well, you know, I'm just gonna throw my 2 cents in too. When we got this, we've been, like I said, Karen said that we've been here for quite a while, and this is the first year that we've gotten this form. And I was really surprised to see it. I was like, you know, they want to know everything about my operating expenses. They want to know, I mean, you have the copy in front of you. They want to know about my boarding fees, my bedding, if I have any apartments, my room rentals, if I rent a tractor, if I have camp fees, blanketing, oh yeah, blanketing, yeah, personal property taxes, I mean, my owner's salary, that's really none of your business, you know, so, administration, salaries, professions, repairs, trash removal, it's all, and I was like flabbergasted with this, and I was so happy to hear that somebody else had the same problem, because I didn't know what to do with this. My accountant is like already flown the coop because it's after the 15th of April, so she'll be back in 4 weeks or whatever it is, so I couldn't go talk to her about this, but this is a really big problem. And from what I understand, that you guys are the board of selectmen, that you do have the power to take care of this, either to get rid of it, or delay it, or whatever. But I mean,
Well,
if you're gonna be going just after the farmers, the horses, why aren't we talking about the goats, the cows,
I think.
the lambs?
Listen, you're asking the wrong person, I don't know these.
Well, I'm
rules.
talking to you because this is all I have.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't go
can tell
downstairs
you
and
that.
talk to talk to Robin, because this is not something she wants to hear, and I'll just get shut off and put out the door, so.
I think
I want-
Joan could answer that question better than I can, and I think horses are classified differently than goats and cattle and sheep.
No, they're not.
Okay. I think I said I think.
Well, if you've seen where a horse goes in the pasture and where a cow goes in the pasture, it's pretty much the same thing.
Okay.
And people love their cows just as much as they love their goats, as much as they love their
Yeah.
llamas and their horses.
I understand.
So this is what we have. This is the key. This is where we're supposed to be at this point right now. So like I said, I've been here for a long time, and to see these numbers come up in my books, I don't have a high overhead. I mean, I work a full-time job to pay for this and for all the extra things that go into the farm. I mean, the farm doesn't make enough money to just
It doesn't make any
There
sense.
aren't too
There's
many.
no room for taxes, you know
There
what I
aren't
mean?
too many- there aren't
My
too
wife
many.
hasn't taken a salary since we started here, hasn't taken a paycheck. I mean,
It's a labor
um,
club.
exactly, and we're going from paycheck to paycheck, you know, bouncing between the payments on the barn and the hay. This year, hay is gonna be stupid because of the rain we're having right now.
And more importantly, I think to have the purpose of this form, how it applies, how it's applicable to real estate assessment. That is the big, knowing what he's charging for blanketing and all of these things, how is it applicable to real estate?
It adds up so high, it's unfathomable for us. I mean, it's like,
And why only 4 farms?
yeah, well,
I don't
having
know.
the cows.
I don't know, I
Oh, there's
don't
other
know that
horses
that's,
in town.
There's plenty of
I'm
other.
not gonna throw them under the bus, but there's other horses. Unfortunately, I don't think Robin understands the whole business either, and that enters into it.
well, I can't speak to what Robin knows or doesn't know. She's been an assessor for a long time, so.
But she's doing stuff that she's never done.
Laws change, and I know that this has been explained to me briefly, that this is a result of changes in the law. That the letter that you see as farmers is different from the letter that residential care facilities see. She tried to put these in a way that would make it easier for you to read and to understand.
It's just this
Local
town.
to your industry. Each industry got a different letter, or not the same letter, but a different form, trying to tailor them to the specific
This
industry.
sounds like it's a commercial property. This form looks
Well,
like commercial to me.
I think you have to, understanding it, and listen, I'm not arguing with you guys. I grew up with working on my grandfather's dairy farm. Every summer, I spent my summers up there working on the farm. That farm stopped working as a working farm, as a dairy farm, after the bottom dropped out on the cost of milk. So that farm is now, my cousin is just breeding cattle. It's a different operation. It's just like you guys. He's got another job. It's a whole different thing. I understand, and I care about the farmers in Deep River. It's a wonderful thing, and I know that the same thing goes for both of these guys. We will look into this stuff and ensure that what's being done is proper. The little bit of conversation that I've had, based on the article that I read in the newspaper and a conversation with Kevin, and a conversation with Robin, is that she is not doing this stuff based on her understanding of statute and her understanding of law. Now, we will all sit around and have a conversation around the table. We'll have more conversations about this and get to the bottom of it.
Which I understand and we appreciate.
Get to a point where everybody understands. Not everybody's going to be happy. Could be Robin, could be me, could be Kevin, I don't know. But more than likely, when we come to an understanding, at least we will have an understanding of what the law is and what the statute is.
Well,
And
I
that's
appreciate
all
that.
we
I
can do.
appreciate that, and the only problem and the reason why we're here is well, that's not the only reason, but because there's a date on this and there's a severe penalty on it. So
Yep.
this is going to be really time sensitive. It's not far away.
Well,
So
that's
this needs
where
to be done.
we're in a situation where I don't know the law about these deadlines. I assume that these deadlines are not just manufactured. You can just make them up.
Might have something to do with the fiscal year.
I'm sure it does. But I will look into that. I'll talk with her council, with the assessors council, with the town council, and any other council that Ben might want me to talk to see what the statute, what we have to do here, if we can do anything. And I'll let Kevin know, and he can send it out to the group. I'm sure you have a contact for everybody, so I'll let you know.
Well, my understanding of talking with Rob was this was a survey to get a reassessment for the 2020.
I can't imagine that if there's a deadline June 1st.
That's
of
why,
the penalty.
that's my question. I don't know if she's.
I can't imagine.
A year ago.
Walter Adams, I'm from Killingworth, and I'm chairman of the Regional Land Council that all 17 towns belong to. I just got one question is, when you look at 1263C, and of course it references rental properties and everything else, and then you can go on all these different towns and click on their form of the 1263C that they send out. Everyone has apartment buildings and everything else broken down for heat and everything else. I haven't found one that addressed horses or stables or anything else. My question is to you is, where did this form come from and who generated it?
I just explained, Rob, the form comes from the state. She tried to tailor it to the individual industries. The farm's got a different back sheet, back 2 pages than the bars did. The residential care facility's got a different back 2 pages than everybody else. She was trying to tailor each form to the individual industry.
So
But the
that
form
form
that
is generated by the state, the guidelines for that?
I assume that it is. I don't know that.
She gave me a copy of the state,
Okay.
which says, efficiency, 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom, 3 bedroom, 4 stalls.
So-
It's taken
so
from
it
the
does.
state form, and that's, and it, on that, it's all
I
tenant
mean,
and.
if I'm not mistaken, she sent this out last year and was directly from what the state said and was told this is, nobody understands how to answer the
Not
question.
just the horse people should,
Okay,
never went out.
okay.
Because when I went in there, she asked me to go over the one that she gave for the horse people. She said, would you look at this and tell me what you think? And she said a new law was passed last year. Well, there's no new law passed last year to do this.
Okay.
We have had
She-
legal counsel look into the change.
And-
The last one we can find is 2010. So unless she, and maybe something to ask is whether she's using another statute to shed light, you know what I mean? Maybe there was something in lieu or attached to 1263C that she didn't put in the letter. That would be helpful.
No, well, that's,
Thank you.
You know, and I told her, I said, this is not anything that is going to go over well. Because it's.
Now, when was the last time
blanket
anybody got
in it.
tax bill?
And she explained to me what her idea was to generate a value of all the land. But there again, there's so many variables from barn to farm to farm of what everybody charges, doesn't charge. So now you're going to say that, okay, because this one charges X amount of dollars, this one's here, that's going to make the little farm suffer more because it's going to bring their rate of what that value is worth. It can just about afford to keep going now with small barns. It is really a labor of love. There's no money to be made. You make your living, you eke out your groceries and a little of this and a little of that. You're not putting away any money for your retirement. It just doesn't happen. You love it till you can't do it anymore.
here.
Just a question, with this being on the agenda, I'm just wondering why we didn't have Robin here or our legal counsel.
Robin's
because
on
we
Robin's on
pretty much knew
vacation.
that all this was gonna come up.
Robin's on vacation.
Well,
Till the end of the
I'm saying, that makes no sense, legal counsel should have been here. Because we all knew that there was gonna be questions that you couldn't answer. So, I mean, this is kind of pointless at this point.
Thanks.
I'm a horse owner and have been for many years. And I would really hate to see farms forced out of business because they're inundated with paperwork. If a barn has so much paperwork that they pass on to the owners of horses in their barn, they're gonna move the horse. You move enough horses out, the barn can't survive. Gone. And our plan of conservation and development says we want this here. So I'm really hoping that the 3 selectmen and some farm people and Nichols and Robin can work something out so that Deep River is a horse-friendly town.
Anyone else?
Thank you for your time.
Yeah, thank you. I don't think this was pointless at all. I think this was a very productive meeting, and I appreciate you all coming out.
And I said that at the meeting. I said, as a neighbor, I was invited by you as a neighbor before you knew I was a selectman, and I, full disclosure, if you didn't want to let them there or whatever, that was fine. But my point was that you needed to get together as a group and
voice it. And maybe it's been simmering for a while, but this is, between your meeting and this meeting, these are the only two where there's been a big voice. And unfortunately, it might be too late for this year. I'm just, I don't know if it is or not. That's where the
Not invited next time.
You know, and I'm all for the agriculture in town too, but there's certain things that have to be done, like deadlines and all that kind of stuff. And it might be that this is a good start, but it can't be resolved now. And it might be resolved, I'm sorry. Well, that's part of, we didn't know, you know, we didn't hear anything about it until at the meeting when it was. So I'm not making excuses. I'm just saying that the two big groups were your place and now, and that was all within the last 2 or 3 weeks.
Right.
And I think we have a desire to get to the bottom. And I don't think it can resolve in one day.
No, and I don't think that's the expectation. I do think we're gonna follow up as a group and try to make sure that, you know, it is getting the attention.
I think the biggest concern is the June 1st deadline.
Yes, sir.
Whether we have latitude to extend that, I think that's what I'm gathering here as a selectman, is that I'm hearing that June 1st. You know, if we can extend it out to July 1st or whatever it may be, and we can keep communicating as a group and move forward, I think that's the best interest for.
I move that we just get rid of it.
Yeah.
We already make our. I have one question. So it sounds like that everybody wanted the assessor here. Is there any chance that she could show up and maybe have a special meeting before the June 1st?
Well, she'll be back on, beginning of next week, so we'll make arrangements to do that. We'll make arrangements to see about whether a special meeting is in order. If it's something that we can extend, there's no need for a meeting. We'll just have a meeting. We're going to arrange for a meeting.
Well, these guys are worried about June 1st.
That's exactly right. Anyone else on this? Okay, thanks.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Oh, actually, going forward on the next time you guys have a meeting, we had some other things we want to get on. Do we get on the schedule for that?
I'm sorry, guys.
Said we're going to go for, no, we'll talk about it later.
If you want to get on your agenda, just do what Kevin did.
Okay.
And we'll get you on the
All
agenda.
right, didn't know if we could do that here now.
No problem. You can do it now. Tell me you want to be on the agenda, I'll put you on the agenda.
All set, thank you.
Okay. Great.
Guys,
Thank you.
Don't leave.
Jane says it.
Jane said it. Okay.
I gotta go do night check.
The audience of citizens or any other business to come before the board, I'd like to fill you all in and some of you who are interested in the planning and zoning enforcement officer situation. I met with the Council of Governments, both their director and the regional planning director, Torrance Downs. And we had a good long meeting and then a number of conversations subsequent to that on how their advice is how to proceed in this, how a number of communities around us have proceeded in this kind of thing. Speaking about the hiring of a new zoning enforcement officer. What they suggest is we put a committee together. They suggested a committee made up of 2 members of the board of the Planning and Zoning Commission, chair and vice chair if he's available, or someone else on the committee. First Selectmen, Torrance as regional planner, and what they suggested, and I like the idea, is another zoning enforcement officer from an outlying community. And I've spoken with Chris Costa, who's the zoning enforcement officer down in Old Saybrook. She's also the chairperson of the certification committee of the group that represents the zoning enforcement officers, called CASIO, Connecticut Association of Zoning Enforcement Officers. They suggested we get that committee of 3 together, or committee of 5 together, as quickly as we can to put together all we need to do and to begin interviews. And I think the idea of Chris being involved really opens up that association. We can advertise on their website, do all the things that we need to do. Now, just by, you know, after that initial conversation, Torrance put out on the Regional Planning Association website, or whatever you call it, group, texted everybody, emailed everyone. And we've already gotten 2 people who have applied for this, not applied, but have expressed interest. So one of whom is a Chester resident, who's the current zoning officer down in Mass. And so we might fill this pretty quickly, hopefully we can. But we just 1 second. So that was the idea. I want to run that past you guys. I think that's a good idea. We get the Planning and Zoning Commission involved where they should be, because the zoning enforcement officer reports to them. The Selectmen's office, because the zoning enforcement officer is an employee of the town. And these other two folks, the regional planner is focused on planning, which is something that we should be doing. And another zoning enforcement officer who is very involved in the certification of the people that are certified. So I liked that idea. If you guys have some thoughts on that, that'd be great.
I'd like another person from planning and zoning.
Okay.
Because we have to work with whoever is there
Well, the idea,
so closely. So I'd like to have 3 from planning and zoning.
The idea was that we would have, that this committee wouldn't do the hire without whoever the number, probably a couple of the folks that are high on the list would come and be introduced to the Planning and Zoning Commission and get.
Do we have time?
Pardon? Yeah, we have time. Part of the benefit of belonging to the Council of Governments is that they will provide, as they have for other communities, if we don't have a zoning enforcement officer available to us, they will provide a person to fill that role. Yeah, Tony?
Can you name your own or no?
Pardon?
Can you just name your own or no? I mean, the one I'm assuming is John O'Rourke.
Yeah. I don't know that person, and I don't know the name. I think from Durham, but I'm not entirely sure about that.
I think that's a good idea, absolutely.
Good, so we'll move forward with that as quickly as we can. And I think the Planning and Zoning Commission will probably talk about that on Thursday night's meeting. I would assume I'll come and we'll have a conversation about it. The next is just to announce we've scheduled the town meeting for the appointment of the 2 alternates that we talked about. The confirmation of that appointment is scheduled for May 22nd at 7 o'clock, probably in this room.
I thought there were 3 people.
Justina.
Oh.
Point of interest, we have you might remember a few months ago, I brought, and you may not, you probably will, I brought a bunch of paperwork in about potential to increase the energy efficiency of the town building, the town hall, the library, and the elementary school. Well, we've been working to find a way that we can fund that at no cost to the town. We just today got word that we can do that over a 10-year period. The cost will be a long-term, low-interest loan that is paid for by the savings from the energy efficiency. In looking at what he sent me tonight, it looks as if it will be a net benefit to the town of about $500 a month for payments.
Is that solar?
No, it's not solar. It's just efficiency. The benefit for solar is a totally different thing. It's mostly generated by Eversource and other groups like that. Eversource is very involved in trying to come up with the savings, the cost savings, and the projected savings from the work that's being done. So we may have to call a special meeting to move this forward. If we can move it forward, I want to have more conversation, more information for you. But I'd like to be able to do it so in a timeline that we can get them in there this summer, so we can do the work this summer.
Especially at school.
Yeah, exactly. That's the driver of the whole thing. You couldn't do it just on this building or just on the library. There's not enough savings.
And then all 3 of them are old buildings.
Right. So that's that for me. Anyone else? Oh yeah, town meeting.
Yeah.
Just so everyone's aware, we do have a budget meeting on Monday, May 20th at 7:30. It's going to be right here in this building. We'll get a wonderful presentation from our friend, Bud Evans.
I've just got one thing. Are you done?
Yeah.
I just want to thank the Future Farmers of America that are here. I don't mind if they would stand up and say their first names, like where they're from. They don't know your last names, just appreciating that they really want to understand what's going forward in the farming industry, because inevitably, it's going to be theirs. So, you want mine? Start right here.
Hi.
No dice?
Anyone else? Anything else? Mike?
Hi, Angus. Mike Dinello, 209 Main Street, Beyond the River. Been to a number of these meetings. I gotta say, pretty impressive that even though there's problems, everyone's got a passion in this town. And they love it, as do we. And I think that's pretty good. Everyone keeps tries to do professional. My issue, as Angus knows, is for the past year and a half, we've been having a number of issues with the speeding, not just on Main Street, but throughout town. So instead of saying too much or not saying enough, I wrote a little something just to give your thoughts. As a resident and business owner, I'm requesting an update regarding the traffic issue on Main Street. Along with my concerns, the Merchants Association and over 200 deeper residents who have signed a petition in agreement that there's a speeding problem in Deeper. We're all looking for a solution. As Angus knows, we have followed for over a year and a half with over 40 emails discussing the problems as gentlemen. I've written 2 letters to DOT state commissioners as well as the governor, not to complain about our town officials or our resident troopers, but seeking the state's DOT's assistance on helping us with the problem. As I said, I'm not alone, as 200 other residents throughout the town feel the same. I fully understand that. We live and own a business on Main Street, Route 154, but we love it in town. My concern is, it's never been about the volume of traffic. It's about the speed. We bought the inn, we realized that we were on a state road. But the sign in front of our inn says 30 miles an hour. It starts all the way up at the historical society. 30 miles per hour is far from the 25 on the side roads, 40 on some of the other roads. It's all the same. One of our meetings with Angus and Trooper Taylor, statistics, were provided for a period of 1 month's time. These numbers were retrieved from the radar sign located at the historical society. This period was low season time of the year, March. Basically, what it said was that between 6 a.m. and 9 p.m., 3,133 vehicles passed northbound only. That's how it's in front of the inn. 1,410 of those vehicles were over compliant. Compliant is 5 miles an hour over speed. So that's 1,410 vehicles traveling between 35 and 50 miles per hour, 35 mile zone in the village of Deep River, because that's my classification. And I have the statistics. Angus knows as well. Many of these speeding vehicles are tractor trailers, delivery trucks, and construction vehicles, not just the residents of Deep River. I'm concerned not only about the safety of our residents, as I watch it there all day long, watching kids walk up and down the street, but I'm concerned about our business, because our residents come to Deep River from all over the world and love this area and expect to be in a lot of it. So it's 30 miles an hour. I'm also concerned about our family. We're subjected to this every day. It never stops. 1,400 cars just in March, and it's going to go up because summertime we know it gets busier. So I'm hoping that we can get some kind of update on trucking as well. Because 200 people were starting to call me and ask me, you started this movement. What, are we getting any help for Angus? And that's what the intention of the petition was. Not to throw Angus under the bus, but to try to get him some help. I'm just trying to get a handle so I can share that with other people.
Well, as I told you at the Merchants Association last week, I'll tell you the exact same thing. We were working with the state. Now, understand, we did our study, as you just read the results of that. The state did, after you called, did their own state police, I think, had their own folks here, and they did their own study. Probably different hours, they were here at night.
Well, they came for 2 weeks.
Yep.
That was because Lieutenant Costa
Yep.
wrote a letter to him,
And-
and in the end, we sat down.
And the DOC.
He said, let me just finish.
I thought I was finished.
I'm sorry, I apologize.
That's okay.
But I want them to understand,
I understand.
this is Lieutenant Costa, he was a gentleman, he came down and said he was going to try to help us. Posted a couple of state troopers for 2 weeks, and that was the intent of his optic solution.
And that was not a formal, he wasn't, I don't think he was, I don't know that he was tracking speed or not, but he was certainly observing and making observations. The DOT had done a study, and I don't know the timing of that either, but I do know that in the response to your letter to the DOT, they spoke to the same, to about the same result that we got. That people are, there definitely are people speeding. Most of the speeding is not above the threshold of what they considered to be something that the state was going to address. They threw it back at the town. The town trying to address a situation on a state highway is difficult at best, because we can't do anything without talking to them about it. So as I told you the other night, I'm trying to get them to allow for us to put a couple of speed tables at crosswalks on the north and south end of the downtown area. Those are not speed bumps, they're speed tables. They use them in other towns in New England, so it's not a fun table. A speed table is about the width of an existing crosswalk, and you use it as a crosswalk, but it raises up a little bit, so it's a gradual bump. To kind of just remind people that they need to slow down.
There's a road up in Hartford that has those,
Yeah.
makes a huge difference.
I haven't been
for the
on
truck.
Northampton.
If you get off Brandon Road exit and go straight across, there's like 3 or 4 of them, and it slows those trucks for right
It
now.
must not be a state road, because the state has resisted
The only
that
thing I
thus
can
far.
see a problem is probably plowing, but they use those tables.
Well, they use them up in Northampton, I can't, it's a gradual enough thing, I
No,
don't
I
know.
believe it's Route 72 going through Bristol by the monument there, if they're the same time.
Is that right?
I believe so.
Angus, what's
Well, that's good to know,
That's
because the state told me that
I
we're
could be
allowed.
wrong, but I believe that.
It's definitely fixed for it.
So we know Trooper Taylor put a great effort into
So
pulling over a lot.
we will, we'll continue to try with those speed tables. In the meanwhile, we are expecting to get the pedestrians and the slow down for pedestrians. We'll put those in the crosswalks as we go along. Those are just obstacles that will get people to slow down, we hope.
What's the reluctance of, as I wrote to the 2 commissioners, to have somebody come here who represents the state, to get them out of the office, come down here, really hear the concerns of these 200 people plus, who think there's a problem where he wrote from his desk, Deep River doesn't have a problem. That's just par for the course for someone who's looking for their tenures, to not listen to who's paying their position. That we have a problem. And it's the foundation. You and I have had great talks about the vision of Deep River. It's a foundation for this town to be successful, not to be on the street. For the side streets, I mean, you watch, it's a great running and walking town for people, for dogs, and kids. It just discourages that.
I don't know, Mike, what the reluctance is. Why don't I copy you on my next email up there? See what-
Yeah, I'd like that, because I just think that someone should be down. And it takes the heat off of you. And you know my concern is not to be pestering you, but it's a problem and somebody's got to address it. Why not let them, it's their road. So, thanks for that.
All right, thank you. Anyone else? Hearing nothing else, I'll certainly entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Those in favor?
Aye.